CrossFit was a major chapter for me, and it was actually really, really hard to change habits and cycles and behaviors that I had built around CrossFit. I almost had rewired my brain and how I do everything to revolve around the last 10 years of myself trying to accomplish this goal.
Rep number 2 is good for Cristiano. And we will see you in Wisconsin.
How I was feeling throughout that entire 2022 season was like, I knew I was fit enough, I knew I was strong enough, I knew I was capable, but what was dwindling for me was just the fire and the passion for it. Like showing up every day was starting to feel just really tough and just kind of almost feeling like I was stuck in the cycle and that I was ready to move on.
You do it.
You got this.
Today the Houston to get crowned. We're done. I'm going to Madison.
And then OH.
Yeah.
When you're training to be one of the best of the world at anything, it is beyond being healthy. It's no longer the pinnacle of health and fitness. It is past that point. It almost becomes a little bit of an addiction where like you've made it once and then you want to make it again and again and again, and kind of asking yourself, why are we doing this? Are we doing this because you really want to and it's still fulfilling for you? Or are we doing this just because it's kind of what you do?
It was
In a long time. It's been a while. Yeah.
I signed up to run a marathon in 2022 in mid-October, so the games ended the first week of August, and I just hopped in for a marathon, and finishing the marathon, I felt more accomplished, more excited, more proud than anything I had recently felt finishing the CrossFit Games, and at that point is when I knew it was time.
I feel tired. My legs are about to cramp, but I set a new PR 6 minutes. So I ran a 3:04, which was really cool. I didn't really think I could do that. So that was exciting. I was running like a 6:50 to a 7:10 for most of it. So I averaged right around a 7 to a 7:03.
I transitioned out of CrossFit to do the first marathon back in 2022, and that's ultimately what re-sparked my love for running again.
Do a couple strides, and then we're off to the races. We're gonna do 6 1K repeats with a 200-meter easy jog in between each. If you guys are running longer than 60 minutes, food and fuel is gonna be one of the most important things that you can focus on. Let's go a little faster.
Without even knowing it, I don't think she has any idea how talented she is. It's kind of interesting, like the term hybrid athlete's new, like that's kind of a newer thing. And I think that she might be the pinnacle of what a hybrid athlete is. She's put an incredible amount of work in, but she's also a very natural runner. She's very good at it, and she makes it seem effortless.
My first marathon, I was 20 years old, and I was literally fresh off swimming for the University of Louisville, but I ran a 3:30, and then I qualified for Boston, so I went and ran Boston, and I dropped 20 minutes. I ran a 3:10, and then at New York, I actually went up and ran a 3:14, and then in Columbus, I ran a 3:04. When I crossed the line in 3:04, with the little amount of specific run training that I had done, just pretty much relying on my fitness from CrossFit and all of the years of sports leading up throughout my entire life, I was like, okay, if I actually trained for this distance or to actually run, I think that I could definitely get under that 3-hour mark, or maybe even a little bit under there. The goal for the Mace Marathon is to break 3 hours, which would be an average mile pace of just under 6:52 for 26 miles.
I think she's very capable of sub 3. And if we're being honest, I think there's a really good chance she can even break 250.
I want to break sub 3 because in the running world, that is, you'll hear a lot of people like, I just want to go sub 3. Like it's one of those benchmarks. Like if you break a certain time in the mile or a certain time in Fran, or if you deadlift or squat 3 wheels on the bar, like with the 345s, like it's just one of those things. 4th overall Ohio woman, 257.24. She must be in the picture somewhere. But really the ultimate reason was because my mom ran a 257, and I've heard that my whole life. 257.22.
I wish I could see what shoes I wore.
I know, I was actually just looking at
I
Dad's.
have been trying to figure it out, but I think they were New Balance.
She ran under 3 hours, and I remember thinking that was the craziest thing. And then I looked extremely unathletic. My first one. This is my first marathon.
I think you look very athletic.
I have no GPS watch.
You just came off swimming,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're very athletic. That's Louisville, right?
Yeah, that was my first. That's the marathon you picked me up.
Yeah.
Cross country.
Also looking very unathletic.
To run under 3 hours in the marathon, especially after I did my first one, I was like, how in the heck did she do that? Like, that is so impressive. And then as I've just continued to get closer and closer, I'm like, I actually think that I could do that, and I think that would be really cool. This has been a really interesting build because I tried to build for another 3-hour marathon back in 2023, and I didn't actually get to the start line because I dealt with a little bit of an injury. So I then took about 3 months off running, and then I slowly worked back in, and I did a 50K trail ultra.
Right here from Western Ohio.
In the summer, decided that after that slow running, I wanted to get a little bit faster again. I told Patrick, I was like, I want to break 40 minutes in my 10K. So I started training for a 10K, which I ran in September.
I did it. 10K, 37:46.
And so then from the 10K, I decided, I was like, okay, I think I want to break 90 minutes in a half marathon. And I knew if I could get under that 90 minute, then I had a really good chance of setting myself up for a 3-hour marathon, and it felt a little bit more reasonable. So in October, I ran a 123. So I was like, okay, if I like double that, that's 246, which gives me 14 minutes to play with. Obviously, I'm running a lot harder in the half. So then since October, I started slowly building those miles back up to get to the marathon point, which is where we are today. We are 2 weeks out from the race. So I have this Saturday, next Saturday, and then it's race day. So I just finished my peak week last week, and I felt really good after it, but this week I've actually been a little bit tired. So this week is just a 16-mile easy run. It's kind of funny, I haven't been at 16 miles since the start of December. So I mean, other than like for my long run on Saturday. So the way we picked this race was, it wasn't ideal, but we were headed out for a ski trip, and I wanted to race a marathon in the spring, and the one I wanted to do was the Saturday after the ski trip, and that obviously I don't think that's a good plan. I'd rather my skiing suffer than my running suffer versus my running suffer, because I had so much fun skiing. So this one seemed like a really great fit, and my parents were going to be in Phoenix, and so my mom, for her, and my dad to get to be there would be really cool. So that's ultimately why we ended up picking this marathon, which was a little bit earlier than anything I'd planned to pick, I guess, just because of that ski trip had already been planned. So I had to sandwich my long run. So typically you'd go like a 9, 7, 5, 3 weeks out long run workout. I ended up going 6, 5, 4, 3. I was going to take the 4 off, but I felt so good I did it anyway. So I've gone 4 hard weeks of hard long run workouts. And so I just think my body is actually feeling it.
Training leading up to Mesa has been structured, and something that we really enjoy is getting to learn and evolve as training, you know, from one event to another. And it's nice to be able to kind of have something dialed in, watch it play out, and then be able to execute it. And she's very good at doing that. Training is the thing that she enjoys the most, and she's very good at sticking to a plan, hitting her numbers, and if you can do that, you are putting yourself in a really good position to hit a big goal.
I held significantly faster than I was thinking I was going to. So I think my first 20-minute block was around 6:40. My second 20-minute block was around 6:35. I went 6:30 and then 6:25. So I got faster each block, and I wasn't sure. It was about 3 miles a block. When I left CrossFit, I thought I would never compete in anything ever again. I've always competed, but I think it's more of an internal drive that drives me.
Cool to be 35 and still setting PRs. It's fun to be getting older and still be getting fitter. And I just think that that's what we have to remember, that age is just a number and we can always do more.
I'm always competing against myself, that I give it my best effort. Like, I don't want to walk away from something and be like, man, I wish I would have just pushed a little harder at mile 16, or shoulda, coulda, woulda. Like, I compete with myself, and no matter when I step up to the line, like, I'm gonna give it everything I have, and I still stress out, I guess, in a different way, because it's just, I want to be proud of myself and the effort that I gave.
With the shift from CrossFit training to marathon training, it is so different, but I think sometimes giving her a reminder that even if things don't seem perfect, like, you've overcome challenges that have been much harder than this. So these little imperfections that like just aren't quite right, they're nothing in comparison to some of the stuff that you've been through previously.
So it's Tuesday and the race is Saturday. So we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then it's race day, so 4 days. So I'm gonna go to the track today. So I did a tempo run last week on the road, and I want to make sure like I just feel like my legs can turn over, but it should feel easy. So it should be called like easy speed, which is what we used to do in swimming. When you taper, is like you're not, that effort shouldn't be all out, it should just be easy speed. So a lot of times these sessions can feel like crap, and I'm aware of that ahead of time. I didn't sleep good last night. I feel like I'm already a little bit nervous, and so it's just not like putting into how you feel today, because that doesn't matter on that day. There's a lot of days that you'll even feel like crap in the warm-up, and then you feel great. So I know that. I've competed enough to know that, to not put any weight into how this goes, but I'm gonna go do it anyways. So it should be about 3 minutes of work, give or take 60, 90 seconds of rest. So first rep, the first mile for me is always mentally the hardest. Then I do one and I'm like, see, you did one, you can do another. Oh, you did two, you can do another. So it's just recognizing that about yourself. If that's how you are, I'm not a hot starter in workouts or in races. Here we go. There's been some really hard training days, but I just remind myself, like, I'm not training this hard for the race to be easy. Like, no matter what, it's not gonna be easy. I'm pushing myself and I'm seeing that I can do something really challenging, but at the same time, it's hurting really bad. Typically your brain just wants to shift to everything negative, like something hurts, my heart rate's higher than it should be, like you just don't feel good. But I just try to remind myself that I'm proud of myself for doing it, and I'm proud of myself for being out there, and it's just trying to like positive self-talk, like you can do this. And then I focus on just 100 meters, 200 meters. Like I don't look at the big picture. So I'm just focused on that individual mile and hitting those 400 meters within that mile. So even breaking that down further. And so that's really how I like to break it down, is not to kind of look at the big picture, but into really small chunks. Well, I did it. I hit all my paces, I think. I'm pretty sure. And I didn't really feel like I was pressing, but it also still feels a little hard mentally, because you're like, ooh, can I hold this for 26 miles? But I think that's pretty normal to feel that way. I don't know if I've ever felt differently. So I did it, it's done. Now I'll go eat, then I'll hit the gym, do a little bit in there, and then tomorrow will be a rest day. And I just keep reminding myself to find the flow and trust in the process and hope for a good day. I mean, we all have the days that just don't feel good, and you can't really determine that, but we can work on is your mind. So I am constantly talking to Pat about that, but maybe it's just me trying to convince myself. I think that life is worth living, and I think that you have to have experiences and see what you're capable of. And I think that we have to continuously keep growing and keep challenging yourselves. Like, I think we love those challenges and not get complacent. And so for me to just have these memories and these experiences, and to know that I challenged myself and I pushed myself, whether I got the result I was hoping for or not, I think that that makes life worth living. And I think that ultimately is why this stuff matters to me. I could say it's not about the time. I'm just hoping the time comes from the work that I've done. So for me, it's kind of like the time is the end result, but it's all of the training and the work and everything done leading into it is why it matters. And I think that the more you can put yourself into tough and challenging situations, the more you learn and the more you grow. I honestly feel terrible, but that's pretty normal. I always remind myself I've competed feeling very, very terrible, and some really great results have come out of it, and so you really can't go off of how you feel. So we'll go get some more food probably, and we'll go to the expo, and then I think we're gonna do the course recon and just see point A to point B what it looks like. And so I could have maybe some mental notes of like, oh, okay, the hill isn't as big, or it looks a little bit bigger than I had planned, so then I'm not just surprised when I get out there on race day. So this is a supposedly a fast course, and it's a Boston qualifier. So it's like
you have like a window to qualify for Boston, and that's what most people are trying to do. So this is one of the first, it's early in the year, so the window closes, I think it closed like last November or December for this, or for the following, so like people can get their bid in this one for like not this April, but I think it's like next April. So you'll see a lot of people here trying to a lot of people try to qualify for Boston in this race.
Anything you want to drop off tomorrow, they'll bring it to the finish line. You just put it in this bag. Okay. Make sure to keep the tag on it for it.
Okay. Good. Thanks. Yeah. Okay.
I think it'll be all right. We'll probably just have to work a little bit to get there. What's your name?
I'm Christy.
Christy. I'm Nick. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I've just watched you compete, and I recognize you, but I couldn't remember your name.
Are you from around here?
Yeah, I live here.
Oh, so cool.
Where are you from?
Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, cool. Are you running the full tomorrow?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because you're like an elite runner. I remember from CrossFit competitions, you dust everybody in the runs.
In CrossFit, but I wouldn't say in the running.
Totally.
So they actually have it like even broken out. So you'll notice like the mile 5 and 6. So say you want a goal pace of 6:52, mile 5 and 6 actually jump to 7:14 and 7:25 because apparently there's like a 4% hill that's a mile and a half long. It's like straight up. So everyone keeps talking about how much it sucks, but that's actually like you make a hard right 90-degree turn and you basically go straight up for a mile and a half. And once you get to that 6, the rest of the way is downhill. So yeah, so they say you start right up under like that Phoenix sign or somewhere up here. So that's what we were checking out. Are you running tomorrow?
My wife is.
Nice. Yeah, there's a bunch of porta potties, so I think that's about the start.
That's the start.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can just see it's kind of like a nice downhill. Tomorrow morning, the race starts at 6:30, so we'll have to load out on buses, and those will pick up between, I think it's 4:30 and 5. So I'll get on the bus around 4:45, and then it'll probably be like 30 minutes up there because you go to the start point, and then we'll have about an hour at the start and kind of hang out, stretch, jog, warm up. I will try to do a warm up. Usually for like a marathon I wouldn't, but the pace that I want to open with is still like somewhat faster than I'm used to, and I know that I don't feel good there unless I've done some sort of heart rate opener. So I'll do some running with some strides, just try to turn my legs over, try to chill and hope I feel good. So this morning I actually woke up at 2:30 instead of 3:40, and I just laid in bed and I was like, man, I knew I wasn't going to be able to fall back asleep, so I just kind of laid there and tried to rest up, and then my alarm went off at 3:40. I literally put both feet on the floor and went straight to the kitchen, and I just got a bagel and a half. I smeared a little bit of peanut butter and shoved it down my throat.
We got up and it sounded like a party again.
Yeah,
like
literally.
Downstairs, like what is going on?
It was 3:50 and I was eating, and it was just it sounded like a rave in the lobby. Thought this was a really small race. When we get down to the buses, the line is ridiculously long. There's school buses everywhere, and there's just tons of people. It's so much bigger than I thought. You start to feel the energy, and then you start to get a little bit more excited and less nervous and anxious.
You got this. Run fast, you got this.
In that moment before 3, 2, 1, go, I just took a few big, deep exhales, and I was like, you've trained for this? Like, you're ready, and just trust in your training. I'm a slow starter, and I like to let my heart rate open so that I don't build too much lactic acid, and it should be an aerobic event and you want to feel good. So I just started the first mile. I'm like, okay, feel pretty good. There were people that were just ripping by me that I ended up passing on later on the race. And it's like, you have to just stay in your tunnel vision and listen to yourself and be aware of how you feel. Miles 1 through 4, I could feel my quads. I could not believe how significant the downhill was. And then I was like, oh, thank you, an uphill. Because I feel like I have strong legs. And a lot of the runners started to pull back on the uphill, but I felt like I was able to push through. And then I got to the next downhill right after the hill to take us back down. And I was like, oh man, my quads are already like blown up. And it was only mile 7. It's like, this is not a feeling that I'm familiar running with, but it is a feeling that I'm familiar with from competing in CrossFit. So I was like, you know what? Don't think about it.
So we're on mile like right in between 16 and 17. And we've had a pretty good luck, like actually getting to stay with Christy a little bit. She's got smiles on, she looks happy, which is a good sign. Right now she's running 6:30s, which is really quick, and we'll put her, she's definitely under the 3 hour like kind of goal time. And if she can stick with this, she should be really close to getting under 250. So I think a 6:52 would be under 3 hours, and I think she needs to be right around that 6:30 for it to be under a 250.
Right at 13.1, it was a little bit challenging because that was a halfway point. And so just recognizing that it was halfway, you're like, can I do this again? Then I kind of worked through that and I came back around as the paces were just feeling really smooth. And then I would say it happened again right between 19 and 20, where you realize you still have a 10K left. And like, I know what a hard 10K feels like. So instead of worrying about what I had left, I was like, I'm just gonna get to the next mile. I'm gonna get to the next mile. It's really easy to just slow down. Like the pace that I was running, it's like, I know that I can keep this pace. I maybe could have even pushed it a little bit harder. And there are times I'm like, at this point, are you just wanting to slow down because mentally you're tired of focusing, or are you wanting to slow down because you actually physically need to slow down? And every time I asked myself that when I checked in, it was always that I just mentally wanted to slow down. And I knew that I would be disappointed, I would regret that later because my body was fine.
21 miles in. 21 miles in, running 6:28s, which is very fast, and she looked good. She was a little bit sweaty, but the temperature's still pretty cool out. It's maybe a little bit warmer than like ideal, but I don't think you could really ask for anything better. There's no wind. It's early enough that the sun's not really beating down or like coming off the blacktop. So she's setting herself up for a really fast time.
When I am racing, I told Patrick, this is my happiest, my most calm, and my most peaceful state. It's almost like you find this moving meditation. So I don't have a ton of thoughts the entire race, and I just focus on feeling good and positive thoughts. And so there's times where I'm like, I'm so proud of you for giving this a shot. Like, I'm proud of you for stepping outside of your comfort zone, and I'm proud of you for traveling across the United States to give this a try on some elevation that you're not used to. And it's just reminding myself that I'm grateful that I get to do it. Coming up on the finish for this one was super cool because you could see it from a distance and you could see the crowd growing, and you turn that corner and it's not a long road. So it's like, wow, you turn the corner and you're basically there. And so just turning that corner, I'm like, holy smokes, when I saw the clock, I was like, I did it. I just freaking crushed it. I honestly feel like I couldn't believe it.
Let's hear it for Jacob Martinez from Gilbert. Robbie Baker, Kelly Myers.
Fast, 2:48. I don't know exactly. I think it was about 2:48, which is so fast.
2:48.
I found a guy named Ethan, and we ran together the whole way. He was on, I'll tell you in a second. I'm so happy.
She took down my record. I ran a 2:57. That's what she's been after.
Are you proud?
Yeah, I knew. We're runners. And I didn't even train like she trains, my Lord. We didn't even eat protein or we didn't have wearables. No, because they usually say she was third woman.
I just locked in and held on.
That was so impressive.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really happy.
I felt good the whole time. I met a guy named Ethan from Indiana, and we were both running, and there was this like really skinny group of guys, and I heard him go, "Hey man, what pace are y'all trying to run?" And they were like 2:49:59. And I looked at him and go, "What about you?" He goes, "I don't know, my goal was 2:55, and I'm gonna hang on to these guys as long as I can." I was like, "Yeah, same." And then they started slowing down, and I looked at him and I was like, "Do you still feel good?" He was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Let's go." And so we just stayed together the whole way, and we ended up beating them. I'm just happy, like, I feel calmest when I'm in it. So it's like once I got through those first 3 miles, I was just like, okay, just lock in. But honestly, my quads. So thank goodness for CrossFit, because my quads were just, after the first downhill and then you go uphill, it's kind of funny. Everybody's scared of hills. I'm like, you guys, this isn't even a hill. Like, they all sprinted the downhill and pulled back on the uphill. And so like I kind of cruised the downhill and then attacked the uphill. So I was like a little backwards there. But then my quads, I was like, oh, I hope that wasn't bad. They were just talking to me the whole time, but it's no different than when I've been in an event, I've been squatting and it's like, okay, yeah, I feel them, but they're not gonna cramp up. Like, just know that, just keep moving. So it felt the exact same.
This one's a big deal to me because I didn't really know if I believed that it was possible. Like, I don't classify myself as a runner. Even coming into this, Patrick was like, Christy, what's it gonna take for you to be able to say that you are a runner? Like, you've now run 5 marathons. Your last one was 3:04. Like, what bar do you have to set to be able to call yourself a runner? And I just kind of looked at him and I'm like, I don't know.
How did this one? I dropped, how many? 16 minutes. Holy smokes.
I just think for me, in the journey that I've been on, from just deciding to run a marathon at age 20 just because I thought it was cool that my mom did and I wanted to see if I could do it and challenge myself mentally and physically, to just seeing, like, if you can stay consistent and you can continue working hard, like, what you can actually achieve. And so I think for me, just looking back on this journey, if you would have told 20-year-old Christy she would run a 2:48, I would never have believed you. And so it's just showing up for yourself every single day and putting your best foot forward, and anything's possible.